I sat in my son Marcus's leather chair, watching security footage on his computer. The timestamp, 3:47 p.m. yesterday. There he was, 42 years old, smiling at the nursing home administrator, the same smile I taught him to use when he wanted something. "My father has dementia," he said, sliding papers across the desk. "Advanced stages. He doesn't remember me half the time." I paused the video. The irony was thick. Marcus thought I was losing my mind, but I remembered everything. Every lie, every forged signature, every dollar stolen over the past 6 months. The nursing home contract was still open. Sunset Manor, Medicaid wing. The cheapest care for a man who built a $12 million construction empire. My phone buzzed. It was Marcus. "Dad, where are you? I've been looking everywhere." I didn't answer. I clicked play. "He signed the papers himself," Marcus told the administrator, holding up my signature. "Power of attorney is all sorted. We can transfer him tomorrow." Tomorrow? That was supposed to be today. I closed the laptop. My 70-year-old knees protested, but my mind was sharp. Too sharp. Marcus had been planning to bury me alive in that nursing home while he liquidated everything I'd built. Too bad for Marcus. I'd been planning too. The betrayal started 6 months ago. After his mother died, Marcus stepped up, handling my finances. "Dad, you're forgetting things," he'd said, concern etched on his face. "Maybe we should get you checked out." He brought me to Dr. Peterson, his golf buddy. The appointment was a sham. Peterson barely looked at me, then nodded as Marcus described symptoms I'd never had. "Memory issues are common at your age, Richard," Peterson said, not meeting my eyes. "We should start thinking about arrangements." I felt cold, but I played along. Over the next weeks, Marcus visited more often, always with papers. "Let me consolidate your accounts. You shouldn't drive anymore. Let's put the house in trust." Each time I signed. But first, I scanned every document with a hidden camera. My business instinct screamed. Late at night, I studied the papers. Marcus wasn't consolidating. He was emptying my accounts into his. The house wasn't going into trust. It was being transferred to him. Then I found the nursing home brochures in his car. Sunset Manor, circled in red, Medicaid beds, a place to die. I called my old attorney, Bill Morrison. "Bill, I need to see you, privately. Run an audit. I think my son is stealing from me, and I think he's planning to lock me away." The next morning, Marcus showed up with coffee. "Dad, let's look at some retirement communities." I played the confused old man. "That sounds nice, son." We toured Sunset Manor, the smell of disinfectant, residents staring at nothing. "What do you think, Dad?" Marcus asked. "It's institutional." "Well, when you're not thinking clearly, you won't really notice." When I'm not thinking clearly, the assumption that I was already gone. Back home, I made my decision. If Marcus wanted to play games, I'd show him what 45 years of building a business had taught me about strategy. I hired a private investigator, Sarah Chen. The next day, I met Bill. The numbers were worse than I imagined. Marcus had moved nearly $2 million. He'd forged a power of attorney, giving him complete control. "If this is legitimate," Bill said, "Marcus has every legal right. He can't sell my rental properties. He can, with power of attorney and a medical diagnosis." I stood at the window, watching the street where I'd built my first building. Everything I'd worked for was being dismantled by the person I trusted most. "Bill, hire Sarah Chen. Find out everything Marcus has been doing." That afternoon, Marcus was in my kitchen looking through my mail. "Dad, where were you?" I was worried. "Just running errands." "Which library?" "The downtown branch." They don't serve lunch at the library, Dad. I went to Murphy's diner after. He showed me a map on his phone. A red dot tracked my location. I have a GPS tracker in your car for safety. You're tracking me. I have to. You're not thinking clearly. Last week you couldn't remember my middle name. James, I'd never forgotten it. I was tired. And today, were you tired when you went to see Bill Morrison? There was no point in denying it. Bill's an old friend. What did you discuss? We discussed old times. Marcus stepped closer, his voice a whisper. Dad, if you're going to fight me, I'll have no choice but to move faster with your placement. My placement? At Sunset Manor, the facility has immediate openings. The walls closed in. He was threatening to imprison me. That night I called Sarah Chen. Your son is planning to isolate you completely. Once you're in that nursing home, you'll have almost no legal recourse. How long do I have? Days, maybe a week. The next morning, Marcus arrived with Dr. Peterson and Janet from social services. Dad, this is Janet. She's here to do a wellness check. Janet asked cognitive questions. I answered perfectly. Marcus whispered to Peterson. Mr. Hammond is in the early stages of dementia with periods of clarity, Peterson said. Living alone is becoming unsafe. Mr. Hammond, Janet said, I'm going to recommend a temporary guardianship hearing. After they left, I called Sarah. They're moving faster than we expected. Guardianship hearing probably within days. You need to act confused, buy us time, make him think his plan is working. I did. That evening Marcus came for dinner. I left the takeout in the bags. I thought I did that already. I asked him the same question 3 times. I put bills in the wrong envelopes. By the time he left, Marcus was practically glowing. His plan was working. The next day, Bill called. The guardianship hearing is Friday. If we lose, Marcus gets legal authority. It would be extremely difficult to get it back. Sarah called an hour later. Mr. Hammond, we've got him. Your son isn't working alone. There's a whole network. She laid it out. Dr. Peterson had filed fraudulent assessments on 6 other elderly patients. 3 of the adult children were Marcus's business associates. Janet from social services was specifically requested. This isn't greed, it's organized fraud. Then Elena Vasquez called. Her brother Carlos had used the same scheme on her father, Roberto. Same doctor, same social worker, same nursing home, Sunset Manor. We met. Her father's power of attorney was identical to mine. The signatures were forged the same way. Carlos had taken nearly $3 million. Sarah arrived with Detective Jim Morrison, Bill's brother. Mr. Hammond, we've been investigating elder abuse. Your case gave us the missing piece, the coordination. Sarah smiled. Yesterday, while you were playing confused, I copied Marcus's computer files. Detective Morrison pulled out a recording device. Your hearing is tomorrow. Marcus thinks he's one. If you wear a wire, we can catch him admitting to the entire scheme. Sarah added, this scheme started after your wife died. Marcus used your grief to begin positioning himself. He planned this while I was mourning my wife. The betrayal cut deeper than the money. The next day I sat in court, wired, looking confused. Marcus, his attorney Davidson, Dr. Peterson, and Janet were all there. Judge Reeves reviewed the file. Dr. Peterson, summarize your findings. Mr. Hammond is suffering from moderate to severe dementia. Marcus nodded gravely. How are you feeling today, Dad? The judge asked. I looked around with manufactured confusion. Why are we here again? Dad, we talked about this, Marcus said. The judge is trying to help us. Oh, okay, I looked at the judge. Are you a doctor? Marcus smiled. To him this was proof. Mr. Marcus Hammond, the judge said, can you tell the court about your father's living situation? He's been living alone. He needs supervised care. And you've identified an appropriate facility. Yes, Your Honor, Sunset Manor. And his finances. Marcus straightened. Dad's finances are complex. I've begun consolidating accounts. I've also established a management company to handle his assets. What's the name? Hammond Construction Services. It maintains the family brand. Perfect. He just admitted to the shell company. Mr. Hammond, the judge asked, is there anything you'd like to say? I looked at Marcus. Will you visit me? Of course, Dad, every week. And you'll take care of my money. I'll take care of everything. You don't need to worry. Okay, I paused. Marcus, you said there are other people like me, other fathers whose sons are helping them. Marcus's attorney shot him a warning look, but Marcus was too confident. Yes, Dad, there are several families. Are their sons as good as you? We all do what we have to do. And we all work together. Sometimes when it makes sense. Based on the evidence, I'm prepared to grant temporary guardianship. Judge Reeves began. Your Honor, Bill interrupted, I'd like a brief recess. There's new information. During the recess, Marcus pulled me aside. The wire recorded. Dad, you did great. This is going to make everything so much easier. I'm scared, Marcus. There's nothing to be scared of. In a few days, you'll be settled at Sunset Manor, and I'll handle all the complicated stuff. The money stuff. All of it, the business, the properties, everything. What about the house? We'll sell it, you won't need it anymore. And my friends, the other men. Marcus looked confused. What other men? The ones whose sons are helping them. Marcus studied my face, a flicker of suspicion, then dismissed it. They're fine, Dad. We all make sure our fathers are taken care of. Back in court, Bill stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Detective Jim Morrison. Marcus's attorney objected. Objection, this is a civil hearing. Your Honor, Bill said, this may be part of a larger conspiracy to defraud elderly citizens. Detective Morrison entered with a laptop. Your Honor, Mr. Marcus Hammond is part of an organized elder abuse ring that has stolen approximately $15 million from 6 victims using fraudulent documents and falsified diagnoses. Financial records filled the screen. This guardianship petition is not about protecting Mr. Hammond. It's about completing a financial fraud that began when Mr. Hammond exploited his father's grief. Judge Reeves stared at me. Mr. Hammond, do you understand what's being presented? I met her eyes. Yes, Your Honor, I understand perfectly. You've been aware of these allegations. I've been investigating my son's theft. I've been building a case. Marcus jumped up. That's impossible. Dad, you can't even remember what you had for breakfast. I remember everything, Marcus, including the breakfast I never had because I was too busy meeting with lawyers. The courtroom erupted. Marcus sank into his chair. His perfect scheme, months in the planning, had been turned against him by the man he'd most underestimated. Detective Morrison placed handcuffs on Dr. Peterson. Backup officers arrived to arrest Marcus. Marcus looked at me. Dad, I'm your son. No, I said. My son died when he decided to steal from his grieving father. You're just a criminal who happens to share my DNA. 3 hours later in Detective Morrison's office, the adrenaline wore off. We've arrested 6 people, he reported. Carlos Vasquez confessed. Your assets are being returned. Marcus is looking at 15 to 20 years. Does he want to see me? His attorney says he's claiming he was trying to protect you. Set up the meeting. The next morning, I sat across from Marcus in jail. He looked broken. Dad, I know you're angry. I'm not angry, Marcus. I'm heartbroken. At first, I really was just trying to help. After Mom died, you seemed so lost. I thought if I could manage your finances. And when did helping become stealing? When I realized how much money was involved. When I met Davidson and his clients. So you decided to cash in. I told myself you'd never know the difference. You'd be in a nice facility, and I'd manage the business better than you ever could. You decided my life didn't matter anymore, that I was already dead, so you might as well bury me and take what you wanted. Marcus started crying. Dad, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back the months I spent thinking my own son wanted me dead. I never wanted you dead. You wanted me locked away, drugged, and forgotten. That's not murder, but it's close enough. I stood to leave. You can serve your time. You can think about what you did. And you can hope that someday you might become the kind of man your mother and I thought we were raising. 2 months later, I addressed my employees. Hammond Construction is being restructured as an employee-owned cooperative. When I retire, you'll own it. After the meeting, I drove to Sunset Manor to visit Roberto Vasquez. We played chess. Richard, he said, capturing my knight, do you ever regret stopping them? No, they made their choice when they decided we were disposable. I just made sure there were consequences. And if they had succeeded, then they would have murdered us without technically killing us. That's not something a father should forgive. Roberto nodded. Checkmate, my friend. While I was thinking about family, he had been systematically destroying my defenses. You're a dangerous man, Roberto Vasquez. We both are, Richard. That's why our sons underestimated us. That evening I sat in my home office. My phone buzzed. It was from Alina, Dad's home, cooking dinner for the whole family. You're invited anytime. I typed back, tell him I'll bring wine and my chess game has improved. I noticed a photo of Marcus at age 10, grinning after his first home run. I put it in the drawer. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive, but they don't have to destroy the betrayed. Marcus had tried to erase me, but instead, he taught me I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. At 70, I'd learned to fight for myself, and I'd won. 4 months later, I stared at photographs of Marcus in his prison cell, meeting with Vincent Torres, a man Detective Morrison said they were still tracking. The photos were slipped under my door with a note. Your son says hello. Stop talking to prosecutors or join your wife. They were threatening to kill me, but they'd made a critical mistake. They thought I was the same trusting old man. They didn't realize I'd been forged in fire. I picked up my phone. Jim, it's Richard Hammond. We have a problem. The next morning, Detective Morrison's office was buzzing. Agent Sarah Williams took control. Mr. Hammond, this isn't just a local ring. It's a national network connected to organized crime. Vincent Torres is a lieutenant in the Castellano crime family. They've been using elder abuse schemes to launder money. Elena leaned forward. Are you saying our sons were working for the mob? Yes. The real money wasn't just from the stolen assets. It was from using those assets to clean drug money, weapons trafficking proceeds. Your sons were mid-level operatives. The scope was staggering. I thought Marcus had stolen $2 million. He'd been using my accounts to process tens of millions in criminal profits. Agent Williams' expression darkened. The threat is real. 3 other witnesses have died in suspicious accidents. I felt fear but also determination. What do you need from me? We need you to disappear. Witness protection. No, I'm not running. I've spent 4 months learning how these people think. This ends here. 2 days later, I faced Marcus in the visiting room. I'm scared, Marcus. You should be. These people don't make idle threats. What do they want? For you to stop talking to the prosecutors. And if I do that, then maybe they leave you alone. Marcus, are you telling me to let your friends get away with what they did? I'm telling you to stay alive. By letting criminals go free. Marcus's voice dropped. Dad, you don't understand. Vincent Torres has killed people for less. These aren't white-collar criminals. They're serious people who solve problems permanently. Like they solved problems for other witnesses. Marcus went very still. What other witnesses? I'd struck a nerve. He knew about the deaths. Dad, please, just stop talking to the prosecutors. Move somewhere quiet, change your name, live whatever years you have left in peace. Marcus, answer me honestly. If I do what they want, will they really leave me alone? He couldn't meet my eyes. I don't know. That was the confirmation I needed. Even if I disappeared, they would eventually kill me. As I walked out, I activated the recording device. Every word was now evidence. Agent Williams listened to the recording. He's confirming everything. Marcus is still taking orders from Torres, and they're planning to eliminate you regardless. We make them think their intimidation worked. You're going to publicly withdraw your cooperation. The plan was elegant. I held a press conference at the courthouse. I'm 70 years old. I've lost my son, my money, and my peace of mind. I just want this to be over. I'm too old and traumatized to continue fighting. I just want to go home and be left alone. The story spread. Elderly victim withdraws from major elder abuse case due to death threats. Within 24 hours, my phone rang. Mr. Hammond, this is Vincent Torres. I think we should meet. Torres chose a cafe. He looked like an accountant, not a mobster. Mr. Hammond, thank you for meeting with me. I don't have much choice, do I? Torres smiled, his eyes cold. We all have choices. You've made some good ones lately. He ordered coffee. Your son wasn't the architect. He was a tool, a useful tool but replaceable. Then who was the architect? People who have been in the business of moving money for a long time. Your assets were perfect for our needs. Your needs? Cleaning money, Richard. We had millions of dollars from various enterprises that needed to appear legitimate. Your accounts provided the perfect vehicle. How much money? Through your accounts alone, about $30 million over the past year. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside is a new identity. Credit cards, driver's license, social security number. Everything you need to disappear permanently. And if I refuse, then you'll have an accident, heart attack, car crash, slip and fall. He pulled out a second envelope, $50,000, enough to start over somewhere far away. You're paying me to disappear. We're paying you to stay alive. Consider it a pension plan. He stood to leave. Oh, and Richard. We know about Elena Vasquez's father, the detective's family, your attorney's grandchildren. Disappear quietly and they stay safe. Keep fighting and they all become problems that need solving. That evening in a safe house, Agent Williams listened to the recording. $30 million in money laundering. This is the biggest case of its kind we've ever seen. And he's threatened law enforcement families. We have enough to arrest him right now. But not enough to dismantle the entire network. Agent Williams smiled grimly. That's where Phase 2 comes in. The plan was more complex than anything I'd attempted in business. Using the new identity Tours provided, I would appear to disappear while actually working undercover to map the entire criminal organization. "Richard, this is incredibly dangerous," Sarah Chen warned. "I've been inside this criminal organization for months without knowing it. At least now, I know who the real enemy is." The next morning I called Tours. "I'll take the new identity." "Smart choice, Richard. Where would you like to relocate?" "Arizona sounds nice." "Perfect. I'll have someone contact you with travel arrangements." "Vincent, I need you to understand something. I'm not doing this because I'm afraid of you. No. I'm doing it because I'm tired of fighting. I want whatever years I have left to be peaceful." "I can respect that. You've earned some peace." But as I hung up, I was already planning for war. The flight to Phoenix was uncomfortable. I was leaving behind everything that defined Richard Hammond. Tours people met me at the airport and took me to a sterile apartment. On the counter was another envelope with instructions and a business card for Tours Financial Consulting. "Vincent thought you might be interested in some part-time work. Your construction background could be useful for property evaluations." Property evaluations. I was being recruited to help launder money. Over the following weeks, I settled into being Robert Harris while secretly documenting everything. Tours Financial operated out of a glass office building, managing real estate investments. I evaluated properties consistently overpriced, purchased with cash, and immediately improved with expensive renovations. Classic money laundering. In my first month, I evaluated over $40 million in purchases across 3 states. "Vincent, business seems good," I commented. "Construction is always a good investment, Robert. People need places to live and work. These are some expensive neighborhoods." Tours smiled. "We cater to an upscale clientele." Through careful observation, I learned Tours Financial was just one tentacle of a massive operation in 12 states. Every night, I documented what I'd learned and transmitted reports to Agent Williams. The golden cage they'd built for me was still a cage. After 2 months, Tours invited me to dinner. "Robert, you've been doing excellent work. I'm thinking of expanding your responsibilities." "Management. We're opening a new office in Las Vegas, and I need someone with your experience to oversee operations." Las Vegas, the heart of their money laundering network. That sounds like a big responsibility. It is, but it comes with big rewards, $100,000 a year plus bonuses. That night, I called Agent Williams. The Las Vegas assignment would give us unprecedented access, but it would also put me deeper into a world where one mistake could be fatal. "Richard, we're close to having enough evidence, but if you're not comfortable..." "I'm not comfortable with any of this, but I'm committed to finishing it." "Marcus has been trying to contact you. He claims he has information about a plan to eliminate you permanently." "Set up a meeting." I sat in the federal detention center in Phoenix, waiting for Marcus. When the door opened, I barely recognized him. Prison had broken him. "Dad, Jesus, you look different." "Hello, Marcus. Your attorney said you had information about a threat to my life." "Dad, they're going to kill you within the next 2 weeks." "How do you know?" "Because they told me. They want you to give them the names and locations of all the other victims' families. Elena Vasquez, Detective Morrison's family, everyone who might testify." He handed me a piece of paper with addresses, phone numbers, daily schedules. "If you give them this information, they'll use it to eliminate all potential witnesses. If you don't, they kill you immediately, then track them down anyway." I stared at the paper, feeling the weight of responsibility for innocent lives. Dad, there's something else. The plan to put you in the nursing home, it wasn't my idea. Tors approached me 2 years ago, right after Mom died. He offered to help me expand the business, provided I streamlined the ownership structure. He showed me statistics about elderly people being victimized. He made it sound like I was protecting you. So you decided I was incompetent. He convinced me. But once I signed the papers, once I started moving money, Tors made it clear that I wasn't in control anymore. He was. Marcus broke down. I never meant for it to go so far. Dad, why are you telling me this now? Because I can't live with what I've done to you. And because Tors is planning a national expansion. Hundreds of victims, billions of dollars, all coordinated through a network of criminal families. He handed me another piece of paper with financial projections and organizational charts. If Tors succeeds, thousands of elderly people will lose everything. Marcus, what do you want from me? I want you to let me help you stop them. 2 days later, I sat in a secure conference room with Agent Williams, Detective Morrison, and a prosecutor. The evidence Marcus provided was devastating. Richard, your cover is blown, Agent Williams said. We need to extract you immediately. What about the evidence we've been gathering? We have enough to proceed with arrests, but if we wait any longer, you're going to be killed. I looked around the table. What if we don't extract me? What if I give Tors what he wants, the names, but the information is false? Agent Williams looked intrigued. Go on. Tors wants to eliminate the witnesses. But what if the people he's targeting aren't really the witnesses? What if they're federal agents posing as the families? Detective Morrison caught on. You want to stage fake eliminations. Make Tors think his people have successfully killed the witnesses. Exactly. Then he gets comfortable, starts rebuilding his operation, makes mistakes we can catch. And what happens to Richard? I disappear too. Tors thinks he's eliminated all the witnesses, including me. The prosecutor shook his head. Too dangerous. I thought about everything. I've been dead already. Tors killed Richard Hammond the day he decided to steal my life. The only question now is whether Robert Harris dies for nothing or dies for something. Agent Williams stood up. I need to make some calls. If we're going to do this, we need to move fast. The endgame was starting. The meeting was at the same cafe. I arrived early wearing the wire. Tors looked relaxed, confident. Robert, I have good news and bad news. Start with the bad news. The bad news is that we know you're not Robert Harris. Richard Hammond, 70 years old, former owner of Hammond Construction. I feigned confusion. I don't understand. The good news is that we're prepared to overlook this deception in exchange for your cooperation with one final task. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside were photographs and profiles of Elena, Roberto, Detective Morrison's family, and Bill Morrison's grandchildren. These people have been causing problems for our organization. We need those problems to go away, so other people can solve problems. I studied the photographs of the people who'd saved my life. I'll do it. Tors smiled. Smart choice. You have 48 hours to provide detailed intelligence on all the targets. That night, I met with Agent Williams to finalize the counter-operation. Phase 1 starts tomorrow. Elena and Roberto will be in a staged car accident. Apparent fatalities, but actually entering witness protection. House fire tomorrow night for Detective Morrison's family. Carbon monoxide poisoning for Bill Morrison's grandchildren. And me. Agent Williams smiled grimly. You're going to have a heart attack. At 1:47 p.m. the next day, I felt the first symptoms: chest pain, shortness of breath. The medical equipment simulated a massive cardiac event. "Help!" I called out, clutching my chest and falling to the floor. Paramedics arrived. Tours walked in just as they loaded me onto the stretcher. "Heart attack," a witness said. Tours watched from the hospital waiting room as doctors worked on my failing body. After 2 hours of medical theater, a doctor emerged. "I'm sorry. We did everything we could, but the damage to his heart was too extensive. Mr. Harris didn't make it." Tours nodded solemnly and left. Within an hour, he was on the phone, confirming Richard Hammond was dead. But Richard Hammond was very much alive, watching Tours celebrate through FBI surveillance cameras. "He's buying it completely," Agent Williams reported. "Tours thinks all the witnesses are dead, including you." "What's he doing now?" "Exactly what we hoped. He's reactivating the money laundering operations, contacting the other crime families, resuming the national expansion plans." On the 4th day, Agent Williams said, "Marcus wants to see you. He knows I'm alive." We told him. He's agreed to testify against Tours in exchange for a reduced sentence. 5 years instead of 20. Set up the meeting. The safe house was in a suburban neighborhood. Marcus was waiting, wearing civilian clothes, looking more like the son I remembered. "Dad, they told me you died. I saw the news reports. I'm harder to kill than people think." Marcus smiled. "Mom always said you were too stubborn to die." "Marcus, Agent Williams says you want to testify." "I want to make this right, as much as I can." "Why now?" "Because I've had 6 months in prison to think about what I became, and because Tours sent someone to tell me you were dead." "How did that make you feel?" "Like I'd killed my own father." The words hung in the air. "Dad, I need you to know something. When I first started moving your money, I told myself I was protecting you, from making mistakes, from being victimized. Tours showed me statistics. I thought I was being a good son. So you decided to scam me first." "I decided to take control before someone else did. I thought I was being a good son. But the truth is, I was being a greedy son. I saw all that money sitting there and I wanted it. The protection story was just how I justified it to myself." "When did you realize you were in over your head?" "When Tours told me about the other families. When I understood I wasn't managing your assets, I was helping launder criminal money." "But you didn't stop." "I couldn't stop. Tours made it clear that backing out wasn't an option." "Marcus, what exactly are you planning to testify about?" "Everything. The elder abuse network, the money laundering, the planned national expansion. I have names, dates, financial records, communication logs." "And Tours?" "I can put him away forever." The federal courthouse in Phoenix was packed when Vincent Tours went on trial 6 months later. I sat in the front row. Marcus took the stand. "Mr. Tours recruited me by exploiting my relationship with my father. He convinced me that taking control of my father's assets was protective, not predatory." "When did you first realize this wasn't about protecting elderly people?" "When Mr. Tours showed me how much money we could process through my father's accounts. We weren't talking about thousands of dollars in protection from scams. We were talking about millions of dollars in money laundering." Elena Vasquez testified about her father's case. Roberto Vasquez described the psychological impact. "They didn't just steal my money. They stole my dignity, my independence, my faith in family." Dr. Peterson, who'd pled guilty, testified about the medical scheme. Janet from social services described how the system was corrupted. But the most damaging testimony came from other members of Tor's organization. They described a nationwide network that had stolen over $200 million from victims in 15 states. On the seventh day, I took the stand. "Mr. Hammond," the prosecutor asked, "can you tell the court how this conspiracy affected you personally?" "They didn't just steal my money. They tried to steal my life. They wanted to lock me away, drugged and forgotten, while they spent decades of my work." "How did you discover the conspiracy?" "By pretending to be the confused old man they thought I was, by letting them underestimate me while I gathered evidence." "What was the most difficult part?" "The most difficult part was learning that my own son was willing to destroy me for money." The jury deliberated for 6 hours. "We, the jury, find the defendant Vincent Torres guilty on all counts." The courtroom erupted. Torres showed no emotion as the judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Marcus received his 5-year sentence. As they led him away, he looked at me. "Dad, I'm sorry. I know you are, son." 1 year later, I addressed my employees for the final time. 46 years ago, I started this business with a pickup truck and a dream. Today, you're carrying that dream forward. Jim Rodriguez stood up. "We're changing the name to Hammond Rodriguez Construction to honor what you built and what we're building together." That afternoon, I drove to the federal prison. Marcus looked healthier. "Dad, I heard about the company. I'm proud of you." "It was the right thing to do." "Are you staying in Phoenix?" "I'd been thinking about that. Phoenix was where Robert Harris had lived, but it wasn't home. I'm moving back home. Bought a small house near Elena and Roberto. We're starting a support group for elder abuse survivors." Marcus smiled. "That sounds like something Mom would have supported." "Your mother would have been proud of you for testifying. And ashamed of me for everything that came before. Your mother believed in redemption. She believed people could change." Marcus was quiet. "Dad, when I get out in 4 years, I want to make amends, not just to you but to all the families we hurt." "What does that look like?" "I don't know yet. Maybe working with elder abuse prevention programs." "Maybe." As I drove home, I thought about forgiveness and redemption. Marcus had betrayed me, but he'd also helped bring justice to dozens of families. People were more complex than their worst moments. That evening, Alina called. "Richard, you need to see the news. Torres died in prison." I turned on the television. Reports said a fight in the federal penitentiary had left Vincent Torres dead. "How do you feel about it?" "I feel like a chapter is closed." "And what's the next chapter?" I looked around my small house, at the photos, at the evidence files I was preparing for other elder abuse cases. "The next chapter is making sure this doesn't happen to other families." Together. 3 years later, the Hammond Foundation for Elder Protection had helped investigate over 200 cases of elder abuse across 12 states. We'd recovered more than $50 million and helped send dozens of criminals to prison. I was 73 years old, living 10 minutes from Alina's family, spending my days doing work that felt more meaningful than anything I'd accomplished in construction. Marcus had been released and was working as a counselor for family financial planning services. We had dinner once a month, slowly rebuilding a relationship. Roberto Vasquez, now 86, was my closest friend and chess partner. We spent afternoons on his patio. "Richard," he said during one of our matches, "do you ever regret fighting back? Do you ever wish you just accepted what happened and tried to move on?" No regrets. If we'd stayed silent, Torres and his people would have destroyed hundreds more families. But the cost of fighting was high. The cost of not fighting would have been higher. Roberto nodded and moved his queen. Check. I studied the board and realized I'd been outmaneuvered again. You're a dangerous man, Roberto Vasquez. We both are, Richard. That's why our sons underestimated us. As I drove home, I passed construction sites where Hammond Rodriguez Construction was building new developments. The company I'd built was thriving. My phone rang. It was Sarah Chen. Richard, we've got a new case. Elderly woman in Denver, adult daughter systematically stealing assets, forged power of attorney, suspicious medical diagnosis. How much are we talking about? Preliminary reports suggest $5 million in personal assets, plus a family business worth another $10 million. Age of the victim: 78. Sharp as a tack according to neighbors, but suddenly diagnosed with dementia after her husband died. The pattern was familiar. The tactics were identical. Somewhere in Denver, another family was being destroyed. I'll catch the first flight tomorrow morning. Richard, you don't have to keep doing this. You've already done more than anyone could ask. I thought about the woman in Denver, isolated and betrayed by her own child. Sarah, do you know what I learned from everything that happened with Marcus? What? That the most dangerous criminals are the ones who convince you they love you while they're destroying you. And the only way to stop them is to fight back with everything you've got. Even when it's your own child. Especially when it's your own child. The next morning, I boarded a plane to Denver, carrying a briefcase full of evidence templates, investigation protocols, and legal documents. At 73 years old, I was still fighting the war that Marcus and Torres had started. They'd been wrong about me, dead wrong. And somewhere in Denver, another criminal was about to learn what I'd spent 4 years teaching people who prey on the elderly. Don't underestimate the old man. He might be tougher than you think.